What's the most you've ever scored in a game?
I scored 11 points.
Did you?
Yeah, I scored 11 points
Against
Armagh. That's Armagh in the league, yeah.
Is that why McGeady ended up coming to Kildare?
Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAA Hour Football Show.
The GAA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Alright, Johnny, so you think you're doing a lot for your club, you think you're a real proper GAA person, and then you look at what Declan Bonner's doing for his club and for his county. So not only is he a Donegal manager and a bloody fine Donegal manager at that, but he's also club chairman of Narasa, and just yesterday he was playing in goals at the ripe old age of 54. So he lined out for them in a junior championship match in the quarterfinals, filling in for regular keeper Ryan McGonigal. He played his first adult game for the club 38 years ago. So he made his debut 38 years ago, and now he's playing with him yesterday just in the junior championship. Niall McIntyre did a piece with the club secretary up there, Pat Boyle, and he's saying Declan never lets the club down. He got on well out there. He only conceded one goal and he still has a good old kick out. You know he used to hit the freeze for Donegal. Like, I mean, as GAA men go, like Declan Bonner is right up there with the very best.
Absolutely. I mean, any of, alright, maybe playing a bit of junior football is not that taxing, but I know my own dad was chairman of our club for 4 or 5 years there, and you know, it's chairman of a club is a big ask, because every problem in the club is your problem, from a disgruntled parent of the under sixes to finance to club fundraisers, everything, to stay at a pitch. I often remember we'd have maybe a match and he'd be ringing around looking for umpires, and I'm thinking, is this the chairman's job? And we'd have all these subcommittees, and all working away, but then whenever anything went wrong, it landed at the chairman's door. So that job in itself is massive, and I'm thinking he's obviously one of these guys that just says, here, look at, I'm fed up looking at these things maybe half-arsed. I just, let me do it myself.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
But phenomenal energy, and being that, like, Donegal are a top team at inter-county level.
One of the most sophisticated teams as well.
Yeah, and like the work he must do, and then like the work that's in any inter-county, but particularly for the counties, like you think of Mayo, you think of obviously Donegal, where there's players in Dublin, and he's trying to organise that, maybe meet halfway for sessions and all this sort of thing. That's massive planning. And then Asher, I played a bit of junior as well. It's just...
Yeah,
like, it's mad.
But you're right, like think of what goes into management. Yeah, not only do you have to organise everything, and when you're Donegal manager, then you also have to fundraise and get involved in all this stuff, tactically analyse everything, you meet with all your coaches. But then you're also a man manager for every single player, like what could be 40 players.
Absolutely, and all them players have lives away from the game, and you're trying to be a mentor to them. You have to listen to the criticism from me and you as well, and everyone else that really don't understand why a decision was made in the first place, and we're scrutinising it, and like, it's just it's massive, and obviously look at the club is a massitive part of his life, and you think 38 years ago he made his debut. It's mad, but he look at the GAA. There's probably people like this all over the country doing massive things. Obviously, when it's someone, with the respect and I suppose with the career that Declan had, both as a footballer and as a manager, it probably gets a little bit more airtime. But there's massive, volunteerism within some people do huge work that we never hear of all over the country, and so that's the ethos of the GAA, and that's why it's alive and well, as much as we kick it around from time to time. But it's alive and well, and it's the heartbeat of. Particularly when things are not going well, like when I would have seen, like obviously we're in Kildare and it's not seen as rural Ireland, but we're in I suppose in the middle of the Bog of Allen, and when things, maybe the Garda station's closed and there was different communities, and everything that goes on in Allen Wood is around our club. If it's there's the bowls for the local bowls club, they meet there, the Irish dancing meets there. It's the heart and soul of the community, and we probably undervalue it, really, and it's people like Declan Bonner and the Declan Bonners all over in every county that make it what it is, and something we probably don't sit back and say, what, we're part of a brilliant organisation here, you know.
Do you ever drive out to Glendalough and like, you know, these real obscure, lovely like mountain roads and just trees, like nothing around for miles, and then suddenly I think you get to Roundwood, is it?
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
poof,
yeah.
this massive like pitch and clubhouse, and you're like, what is this doing here?
How do they get players like that? And you know, but it's funny, you know. Like I'd see, and you'd always be a little bit, maybe you're thinking that every time I think of a club, or I think related to my own club, and there'd be lads and they'd be giving you every excuse why they can't. And then you hear of lads, you know, from like Donegal, tipping back up the road for training, and I'm thinking, we have a lad down at the Cross, you know, he's watching Coronation Street and he won't bother coming up to train, and you're thinking, look at this guy, this commitment. Do you know, it's just it's phenomenal, really, you know.
Yeah, and this is it. So like we're talking about how much is required for a county manager, like especially today, and especially the good teams, and like you often hear of coaches and managers stepping away because it's such a big commitment. After 3-4 years, they talk about trying to get back to family time or finally putting their wives first, or you know, because like it takes so much of their lives. But I just can't fathom then how Declan Bonner throws being a club chairman in on top of this. Like Pat Boyle's saying here, he's your chairman now as well. It's great to have him because we're in the process of getting a new pitch. And Declan is great with the organisation side of stuff. He's a brilliant club man.
Yeah.
Like you're dinner dances and as you say, everything, it's the buck stops with him.
Yeah.
I remember being at an AGM when I was living back in Derry, and it went on for 2 hours longer than it should. Well, they usually go on for longer because everyone's whinging, but we allocated that time. But because we couldn't pick a chairman, well, we wanted the person to step forward, and he wouldn't step forward. But the whole thing was delayed because, you know, he was thinking like, I can't take this on. Like eventually he did, and it was because of people like that, like as well, that keep the whole thing going. But yeah, he knew full well like what a big undertaking this was, and Bonner's doing that on top of county management, on top of playing club football in the championship.
I'd say the bit of club football is a little bit of a stress reliever, you know, just get out and throw on the boots and get out and have a bit of crack with the lads, because, you know, when you're in the role, particularly of inter-county management, you know, and you do build a bond with players, but there is a separation. You know, you can't be the boss and the boy. You know, you have to distance yourself, and you know, it's serious. All right, you know, everyone has a different character, and I suppose they can make that work to their advantage or whatever, but you still have to maintain that distance, or that distance from the players, and I suppose that you nearly need them, as Brian Gavin said once, you nearly need them a little bit afraid of you as such to make sure that they're keeping their standards up, and you know that you're gonna come down hard on them if they're slipping. But I suppose my point being that he goes back and he plays a bit with the club, and you know, probably most of the lads he's playing with, are a good number of them he play with their fathers, or maybe some of their grandfathers as well. So, you know, I say it's to get out and let the hair down. Is a big thing for him, but he's a phenomenal man to be doing, and obviously has a phenomenal wife. She's obviously a big GAA woman as well to support him. Have to be.
Can I ask, just you're talking about management there, like, and McGeeney's obviously always a big enigma to people outside the circles, but players seem to love him. Like, what's the balance that he strikes? Can he be a bit of a friend as well? Yeah,
well, he would be, like, you know, and obviously when I was captain for 5 of the years he was with us, so I got to know him very well, and yeah, he does keep that. But I think the one thing with Kieran was, you know, he expected certain things from you. You know, he would like you to be honest with him. If you had a problem, you said it, and there was a line drawn in the sand. So I think players appreciated that, and he tried to build something, I suppose, different in Kildare as well. He tried to build a bond with the players, you know, because you've obviously no different in any county. You've loads of lads doing different things, and you know, you're trying to bring them all together. And you know, we would have fundraised ourselves, and I think people would have seen, the players would have seen, this is something different. You know, this guy, he's in it with us. You know, he's not here just to manage and see how it goes and you know, get whatever he gets out of it. Contrary to the rumour, the Arabs were funding him and all this rubbish, you know, complete, you know, just make up the stupidest lies ever and just put them out there. But, you know, like, I remember the first, and I probably mentioned this before, the first time we met, you know, he wrote up on a flip chart all the excuses why we weren't successful, you know. And I remember being one, at the time we used to train in the Standhouse Hotel at the back of the racecourse in the Curra. It's gone now, but that was the gym. But you were in with Joe Public, and so you could be waiting on a rack or waiting to do things, and lads would come in. And it was a bit ad hoc, really. So that went up on at no gym, And we organised a fight night, got loads of sponsorship in, lads got into the ring, really well done through Royston Boxing Club in Newbridge came on board, and we raised a good few bob, and we bought our own weights, and we got a place over in the K Club. Pat Mangan, who was chairman of the supporters club at the time, there was, after the Ryder Cup, there was a big media centre. It was like it looked like a big tent, but it was a permanent structure, and we were in there, kitted it out, top of the glass gym. So it was another excuse, and I think players just saw that, okay, this is a bit different now. This guy's, wants this as much as we did, and I think that's where he got the respect. Look, he wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea, I certainly, I suppose, I was coming to the end of my career, and I knew that, this was different, and talking to different people, and that respect, and he had that, I suppose, that respect from anywhere he went, and a really, really top class guy. I know. I say one of the players in the past lost his dad. He was only coming onto the panel at the time and lost his dad. And I remember being at the house, and Kieran rang me, says, "I'm outside." I drove all the way to Armagh. Like things like that. Just he got huge respect. So I think that was the big thing with Kieran.
Yeah. Well, enough about Kildare, because we're going to talk about Derry.
Yeah.
What everybody wants to hear about. No, it's club season. Club season is back, and it's just like this club Banagher are at it again. So I remember in 2012 they went on this fairy tale run all the way to the semi-final. I still remember every one of their games like it was yesterday, and they played Ballinderry in the semi-final. Ballinderry were the linchpins at the time, and they lost 1-8 to not 10 in the semi-final, and it was only because this ball from Enda Muldoon, God, he couldn't, Enda Muldoon's played some amazing passes before, but this one was inch perfect, and Raymond Wilkinson, I remember that he put it away in Celtic Park, and Banagher lost by a point. But they changed their manager mid-season that year, and this is why they sort of came out of nowhere and got to the semi-final, went in this class run. They've done the exact same thing again this year, so they've lost every single league game. They're relegated and changed management. So Enda Muldoon actually was in charge. Him and Declan Mullins stepped away during the season. Senior players had to take over for a while during training. They had no manager in charge. Then Charlie O'Kane and Mark Quigley have come in, and now they've gone and beaten Balahi, beaten Swatra. They're back in the semi-final, and it's just this sort of journey going on again. And I always think that's amazing how clubs can just up it for when it matters most, or when they get something right. We all start training from January or December sometimes. You're doing the runs, you're doing the weights, and you're promising everything under the sun. But it really does seem to be a few weeks out from championship, when you knuckle down, you can make something happen.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that there's more to that. I mean, and players can get caught up in management, and sometimes the more bells and whistles that arrive with a manager, we think, this is going to be different. And everyone brings their own and wants to put their own stamp on a team, and as I say, you could be with a team this year and everything go well. You put the same structures in place next year and nothing go well. But it does boil down to the players, and when you see when you hear of something like that, there's obviously good leaders in that dressing room, because
Mark Lynch would be the biggest ones, and Mark Lynch captain Derry for years. Obviously,
a fantastic player. But I think that when you do something like that, and that's we've all sat in dressing rooms where there's maybe a bit of criticism, but not brave enough maybe to make that tough call. And then Mayo would have got a lot of albeit it wasn't mid-season when they got rid of the Pat Holmes, and didn't back them in the next, Noel Kennelly. But then all of a sudden the focus switches then, so there's no more excuses now. The manager was the problem. Yeah. Now, lads, you have to step up. So
you've taken excuses off the table.
Absolutely.
And you can't hide behind anything.
You can't hide now. And we all look at players look for that crutch. Well, I didn't get a fair deal, or he didn't like me. And when you peel all that, that's all absolute rubbish. Because your job is to convince the manager you should be on the team. And I see it in clubs, and you'd hear he didn't really like me. It's not got to do with that. Basically he's telling you you're not good enough to be on this team at the moment, and that's
agree.
it. You can and most lads, if they're really honest, they know that.
Yes.
And sometimes, and when you think, my God, if you had Enda Muldoon managing you, you think, geez, that's a great, because he's an iconic figure, super player, absolutely super. But you think to get rid of that, there is pressure now, and the pressure's on the players to deliver. And all of a sudden, particularly if you have a group of players that are going to look after themselves for a period, all of a sudden then there's a difference in the manager saying, right, Johnny, you weren't at training. But if your buddy that you went to school with and maybe had your first pint with and all that things is saying, where were you last night? That's a different cry, know. And I think that's, you can, if you have enough leaders to drive it within the team, that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You see this whole the subs thing. Now I understand, right, that sometimes, like, say, a manager might make a bad call, but the manager is only ever trying to pick a team that's going to win. No matter what he thinks of you or whatever, he's going to pick the best team, the best formula that he thinks is to win, and whether that's right or wrong. Yeah. And if you're not part of that formula, then most of it is on you. Like, there are rare occasions that they might be missing something.
Yeah, and there's an occasion maybe it's a toss of a coin between you and someone else, and maybe he goes with someone else, and you come on, you kick 2 points or 3 points, and you think, well, Jenny, how did he get that wrong? But in general, and you get this thing as well, like, I see it. It happens in my own club. It happens in every club where, you guys say, oh, you haven't been training. No, I'm not going. I wasn't getting a fair chance. I'm not going anymore.
He doesn't fancy me.
I'm not going anymore because I didn't get a chance. Well, what chance have you getting a chance now? You're not here.
Yeah.
If you're there, because I'm a firm believer, Con, that if you're there knocking, the door will open. You just have to be ready. But if you're there, in bad attitude, you're there, you're not there. You're not telling him he's not picking. You're not putting yourself in a position to be picked, and that's the vast majority of players.
100%. Like, I've been dropped more times than I can remember, and every single time, like, there was always a reason to be dropped. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I've not, like, there might not have been anything specific, but I gave the manager a reason to not play me. Yeah. And, like, when you are honest enough, and it's hard to get to that stage, when you're honest enough, you reflect and be like, well, am I the very best that I can be? Yeah. Do you know? And not often you are. Yeah. So like the fact that you're leaving it open for the manager.
Yeah, and you see, you'll start to look at other players that are maybe in a similar boat. So you can say, right, like, he dropped me for this, but the boy beside me did this as well, and he didn't drop him. So there's another reason. It's not just that, and you have to make sure, like, turning up for training is not justified to be picked. You're supposed to. That's a starting point. Yeah. Being fit, is not a reason. Yeah. You have to bring everything into the mix. And at the end of the day, you have to train hard, you have to work hard, and then you have to be able to play the game and play in the role that they want you to play in. Yeah. And just because there's another lad beside you, maybe not at every session, that's not a good enough reason for him not to be playing ahead of you, or vice versa.
That is a sticky one that people will always like use that stick to beat people or beat managers.
We had there was a guy, God be good to him, a guy called Patsy Roach, and he lived across the road from our club and played for the club down the years. But it was always every evening would be in the field, just stroll over, retire, and he'd stroll over and he'd be in the field. And one of the lads giving the manager a bit of a hard time. He said, but I'm in the field all the time. He says, yeah, but so is Patsy. So just being in the field is not good enough.
Exactly. And these boys here are missing training that might end up taking your place come championship. Like, if you're not, like, more valuable than them when you're there training all the time, then it's sort of your own fault. Like, you've got the power in your control. Like, and I don't mean, people are naturally better footballers, but you can get fitter, you can get stronger, you can understand the game plan better. Yeah. You can do all this stuff at training, and if you don't do that in the time that this guy's missing all those sessions, then you have to look at yourself.
You do, no doubt about it. And all right, look, the top clubs, I suppose, competition is really high, and you could be really good football and just not make it in the club because there's just better footballers there, and then that can be unfortunate. But I see the vast majority of clubs, if you're putting in the effort and if you're up to a certain standard, like if in Allenwood, we're not blessed with players, so numbers are tight, and if you're half good enough, you're going to be, you're going to get an opportunity once you're there. Yeah. Don't go away try. I went to the first 2 matches, didn't get runs, I'm not going anymore. This sort of thing, and it's all over the county. Be the best you can be. That's all you need to do.
Especially when you're playing 25, 30 games a season. Exactly. People seem to lose sight of that as well. That's it. Yeah. Well, like in Dublin, actually, so we're moving on from men's Gaelic football to, I suppose, Camogie and the LGFA. So I don't know if you saw the statement during the week from Cuala. So they pulled out of their Camogie Championship, and they released a statement to go along with it. Reflecting Cuala's decade-long one-club approach to female games, these squads have dual 9 players, each equally committed to their club football. So they've got 9 players playing for camogie and football, and basically they decided that they couldn't play. This is sorry, I'm making a mess of this, Johnny, but just stick with me here. So basically they had a game on Sunday, I think it was. They're supposed to play their camogie championship game at 10 a.m. and at 6 p.m. they were going to play the intermediate championship final in the football. And Cuala made the decision. They said, based on player welfare grounds, we're not going to let them play both. So they pulled out of the camogie championship because they're in the football championship final, and they thought that was probably the better chance of winning.
Yeah.
Like, they ended up losing that, but that's not the point. They had a week. They couldn't move that. They couldn't reschedule. They had to play the final because Leinster was the next week, or this week coming. So they made the decision, pulled out of the camogie, and this happens all the time actually with women's sport in general, like with camogie and ladies football. And I think a lot of the problem is because you have 2 different associations there. Like,
that's it.
And it'd be like me complaining about like my basketball club. I don't play basketball,
Yeah.
but them like scheduling the game alongside.
Yeah.
They'd be like, why
So
do we
in
care?
two different worlds, and that's the big problem.
And because the problem is we're all in a GA club.
Yeah.
So like these camogie players are in the same GA club as me.
Yeah.
But they're in different associations looking after different fixtures.
Absolutely, and there doesn't seem to be any joined up thinking. Like, there was definitely a solution to that problem, no doubt about it. And like, if it was a case of, and I know when you have different clubs and different teams, but like, this is sport, and like, I'd be very disappointed if those arrangement couldn't be met. But it just seems, and it happens, as you rightly point out, it happens so often in ladies between camogie and football. Every year we'll be talking about it again next year.
Over the next couple of months, watch out for
Absolutely.
it. Like even stuff like they'll get moved out of this happens every year. They get moved out of the county ground because a men's game will go to a replay. And again, that's very harsh. But then, like, say, I remember it was Westmeath this happened, but Westmeath GA are looking after the men's senior football championship. They weren't exactly running the camogie championship.
No.
So then they're just calling rank and taking back the pitch that they were sort of loaning out.
Yeah.
And again, like, there's no real bad person, but it's the players that are losing out every time.
Yeah, and you have to, like, that's the big thing is to, like, especially when you're, like, we all are under the tent of the GAA, even though, as you said, they're all doing their own thing, and that can be like, the men's side of the house, I suppose, run the hurling and football, and there's times when they do clash. But in general, like, I see a lot of our lads now would play hurling with Kyle Dove, and they're in the county senior final, and it's tight. There's no doubt about it. But you do get, the fixtures committee in Kildare, and I do be giving out about them a lot, but they do get it. They do try to get it right, and you'd often maybe look at hurlers are playing. Okay, talk to the manager there if they can move it, and you do tend to make it work. So, like, and particularly 2 county finals, like, this is not a league game where you say, look, suck it up, you'll give other players a bit of an opportunity to play. This is
one's a championship quarterfinal and one's a championship final.
So, like, it's very unfortunate, there's no doubt about it, and it's a pity that I read somewhere as well that the players actually wanted to play in the morning and play in the evening as well, but I suppose the club decided against that. And you can be, like, obviously for player welfare, it's very, very difficult to I suppose there's such a schedule of games now. There's so many games in the year. You do have to be mindful of the load on the body, and I suppose that's the sports science. I know years ago, like when I started, I was playing minor football in the morning, and then you play senior league in the afternoon. But like, that's totally frowned upon now. And even at the time, we thought, you were being taken from minor matches to go to senior. You thought you were the great lads, I've sort of arrived, but it's unfortunate, and I don't see, without knowing. I'm sure if you brought someone in from the ladies in the camogie, they'd tell you 100 reasons why it has happened. But I'd be very disappointed if they couldn't come to an agreement where both could be accommodated.
Yeah, and it's like the Kieran Malloy thing, over the last couple of years, like having to play with Corofin in the club and then go up and play in the Sigerson. Like, again, this is all different competitions and stuff, so it's harder to manage. But like, that's a national story, and rightly so, because it's like, here's a top player looking to play 2 top games, and in fairness, Cuala probably deserve a bit of congratulations. Not congratulations, that sounds patronising, but like, just fair play for like making this decision.
It's a tough decision. Like, the easy thing would say, look, let's let's see how the game goes tomorrow, and hopefully we won't pick up too many, see how yous are, and we play it, and all of a sudden then they're not. But if you continue to do that, does anything get fixed? Like, you have to sometimes call a halt, and it's a tough decision. I'm sure a lot of players that are only playing one sport are left very disappointed.
Exactly,
as well, you know?
yeah. Camogie players don't get championship now.
Exactly, yeah. And that's championship is what it's all about. You train for all year, so that's disappointing. But it was a brave call by Cuala,
yeah.
you know. And I think until these things are highlighted, you know, and then people sit down and say, look, this is bad PR for our association. And, you know, no matter what association, no matter what group, you've you know, you have to mind the brand as well.
Yeah.
And it's bad PR that no one in the Camogie or the ladies football want, you know.
Yeah, well, don't freak out, Johnny, just yet while I talk about some hurling. But Kilkenny's going to do a quick roundup here. Bennettsbridge in the county final last year. They're in a different kind of final this time round. After a stop-start season, they're now in a relegation playoff, and they could be relegated to intermediate after going from senior final last year. Cheddar Plunkett, our own Cheddar Plunkett, is in their they're in the semi-final with James Stevens, so he's looking after them, and they're out on Saturday. Or actually, they beat Danesford on Saturday. Up and down, back in Ulster, back in football, you'll be glad to know. Mickey Moore got off to a good win, beat Burn. Obviously the champions last year, a massive game in the down quarter-final there. 2 late goals for Kilcoo. Paul Devlin and Conor Laverty saw them age out Paddy O'Rourke's men, 2-12 to 2-9. Mickey Moore and Conleth Gilligan, like, it's a dream team, isn't it?
Yeah, Jenny, they're if you can't play for them boys, it's in it. You know,
Yeah.
definitely, and huge experience there. You know, boys that have gone to real strong heights. You know, so it's definitely a. You know, Conleth Gilligan was a fantastic player.
Lovely.
He broke our hearts a few times in Kildare. Yeah, but a great football and a great sportsman. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Back in the hurling, the reigning champions in Offaly are out. Kildare were defeated by Belmont.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a strange one.
It's
yeah,
mad, isn't
yeah.
it? Like a Wexford, another reigning champion, have fallen. Nivena, they were unceremoniously dumped out by an impressive Fernside. Scoreline of 121 to not 12. What's that? 12 points in it.
12 points, yeah.
Don't expect that from reigning champions.
No.
And in the Mayo Football Championship, Ballina beat Briefy. That's a massive result.
Massive result.
I remember following Cormac O'Malley was doing a lot of updates, and he was putting out clips even from Castlebar this game. And when it went to extra time, I thought, Ballina have blown it. You know, you missed the boat or whatever else. But geez, they powered home then 1-2-13 to not 14. One of the clips that they put out, actually, it was David Clark going up above the crossbar to stop a Rob Hennelly free kick.
Yeah,
I thought, that's nice.
It's lucky you didn't do it in Crow Park. It would have been a pint.
I know. But that's a nice tasty semi-final lining up in Mayo. So Castlebar, Ballintubber, Ballahadreen, Andy Moran scored a goal at the weekend, and Ballina in that semi-final.
Yeah, and Ballina would be the surprise one in that. They would have, I think, Breffy would have been hotly tipped to win that one, you know. So I suppose that's the underdog story, and there's loads of examples of them all over the country. It's great to see, but that's what keeps championship going. You know, like you want people coming from teams coming, because it gives everyone a bit of hope.
Yeah.
If it's the same teams all the time, you know, what are we doing here? What are we training for? You know,
This is it. This is club championship.
Yeah.
This is the best part of the year.
It is.
Like,
it is. You're coming in, yeah. And why is it the best part of the year? For me, it's a couple of reasons. One, you're going to get really competitive games. Two is you can sit down on a Sunday, you know, a wet Sunday, turn on TG car, and you can look at games. Yeah. Like you look at maybe St. Ryan's and Kilcormac Calahi in the Offaly senior semi-final, and you're thinking, geez, this is a great match. You know, you've no affiliation to either side. You're looking maybe for the couple of names that you'd recognise, and you're thinking, like, that's, to me, is what the GAA is all about. You're selling the games, our, I suppose, grassroots, to everybody in the country. Yeah. You know, and that, like, even this weekend, and I was enjoying it, and I was half giving out about it. You know, we looked at the two Cork hurling games on the telly, and I'm thinking, this is brilliant. But yet, you know, we went so far into the championship, into the football championship, and there was no game on RT. You know, we looked at it, and the Munster hurling was brilliant, but it was all so. And it's not RTE's fault, because they're only allowed to show a certain amount. But I'm thinking, what a glorious opportunity to sell our games, throw them out as much as possible. Yeah. You know, even if. And I know we talked about it before on this show, even if you lose, and we'll never know who would have went to a game and who didn't, but even if there was 100 people less at a game or 200 people at inter-county game, right, you lose that revenue. But think of the value in the brand that every other corner,
the
the country
grows
and beyond
as a whole. Like,
has to, because we're watching on telly and make it, like. And I wouldn't be the biggest soccer fan in the world, but you see what Sky can do for soccer, and like soccer drives me mad at times because I don't know any other sport where you could fall asleep for half an hour and miss nothing in the game, And we've even a poor game. You'll get a bit of some lad will do something special or there's a bit of a row or something in it, and we don't see it.
But it's grown that much now, that there's millions playing fantasy football, and that's currently ruining my life. But I'm so invested. So even I'm sitting down and there's two teams I couldn't care less about, but I've got two players in my fantasy team that I'm just suddenly invested in. And
big time.
That's how big that game's grown as well.
Yeah.
But enough about my fantasy team, Johnny. You'll get me going here. Next up, Wolly is back with a nice interview with Brian Gavin here coming up, and we're going to look at performance of the weekend after that.
Okay, so there was lots of controversy in the hurling championship regarding refereeing, especially in the All-Ireland semi-finals and a bit in the final as well. There's been calls for 2 referees. There's been calls for VAR. We have 4-time All-Ireland referee Brian Gavin, who's joining us on the line now to talk to us about the standard of refereeing. How's it going, Brian?
Very good, Colin, and yourself?
All good. Good to talk to you again there after Liberty Hall. You were on the receiving end of a little bit of Lara Corbett guff.
I'll get bit of crack though, in fairness, and I suppose that was on his chest for a long time.
It definitely was. So I was reading a piece from you in the Examiner at the start of the year, and you said the talent coming through is not strong enough, not at county or provincial level, which is worrying. Now, obviously in the All-Ireland final this year, Alan Kelly and Sean Clear had never reffed an All-Ireland semi-final before. So obviously your prediction at the start of the year maybe had come true at that stage.
Yeah, and I suppose it's nearly like a club team column, if I can describe it like that maybe they're after winning a few senior championships and next thing there's a few players gone and, their panel gets a little bit shook and it takes them a while to find their feet again and get going. And it's something like that in the hurling referee in certain. I suppose there was myself, Barry Kelly, Johnny Ryan, James McGrath, Dermot Kerwin, all men that I suppose had refereed All Ireland and were gone and very near going. Johnny Ryan obviously this year didn't make it on the fitness end of it and he was gone. So that was 5 sort of experienced lads gone off your panel, and it left lads then that I suppose hadn't much experience going in to referee major games. And you had Fergal Horgan, who had refereed in All Ireland, he was still there, James Owens in particular. So they were your 2 leaders or your front runners. And then in behind that you had a lot of lads column that was definitely had got chances at provincial level and to a certain extent at national level. So you were going to be dealing with a raw enough panel for the amount of hurling games that was going to be on this year. So it left them under a lot of pressure. And it'll be even more pressure again next year. So that's just the way it is. And I suppose I have a few comments on that in a few minutes when we get into it.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Johnny Ryan not making the fitness test because that's very interesting. But I was reading only last March, Tipperary GAA cancelled the recruitment course for new refs because only 3 people signed up. You had the mid-tip chairman, Jonathan Cullen, saying to the Examiner, as things stand, it'll just be a matter of time before games will not be played due to lack of referees. And has it got that bad, Brian?
It would be in certain counties, Colin, yeah, that's for certain. In other counties... and Tip in particular, like you would have good administrators pushing referees and trying to get them to a high level of standard in decision making and physical fitness, all that. But the real problem is, Colin, the incentive to referee just isn't there. And apart from the money end of it, like to get 30 or 40 euro to referee a game and be under the pressure you are probably from parents at underage, but even when you get up to inter-county to get 50 cent a mile and a meal allowance, I just don't know. Would lads commit to it? And are we selling it the right way? Can we improve the incentive to referee or become a referee? How do we make it more attractive is the big question that has to be asked. And, there is no more greater pleasure, though, than reffing an All-Ireland final or a provincial final or anything like that. But the incentive to referee or take up refereeing isn't there at the moment. And that's the biggest problem facing any county to recruit referees. And then when we do recruit them, we're sort of short of referees. So we throw these 5 or 6 lads that might come the one year into games. And games they're probably not ready for. and all of a sudden then they're gone within 2 or 3 months. So I'd say if we were to do a survey of a lad when he becomes a referee, we'll say in March, the likelihood there's a 50-60% chance he's gone again maybe June or July.
Right, I suppose. And if any potential referee saw the kind of grief Sean Cleere got, because now there's social media, that wouldn't have been around when you were reffing, really, Brian, a little bit towards the end, but it seems to be a little bit more vicious now towards referees when they get things wrong. Because you and I both know from growing up in the GAA, some fellas go to matches purely to give the referee guff.
Yeah, and no matter what, even 5 minutes gone in the game,
they're at it.
Yeah. And you wonder, there might be even 2 frees gone, and there's 2 or 3 lads, the same fellas you'll hear most, especially at club games. Now, with inter-county games, it's a lot different. But I suppose Sean Cleere, in my opinion, Sean Cleere is probably the fittest referee we have in the national hurling panel. But you see, I think we've got a little bit bogged down, and again, we'll touch that, as you said, about the fitness test later on in the year. But we've got bogged down on how fit a referee can be. Rather, can he be confident in his own ability? Can he make decisions? Can he make them under pressure? Can he read the game? Does he know what a foul is with a hurl? Is it intent? Is it not intent? So there's a lot more to refereeing than just being up with the play. You have to be able to determine whether a lad means to strike someone with the hurl, whether it was a complete accident. And that's where I think we have fallen down. We're just gone carried away with how fit a referee can be. And we need to really go back to decision making and applying the rules, as in, using your head. I'm not going to say common sense because Croke Park could freak out if I say common sense, but you have to use your own interpretation to judge these tackles that we see so often in these hurling matches.
Right. Well, we'll talk about this fitness level stuff now then, because there was a study in DCU and they said during the 2017 Senior Championship, Gaelic football and hurling referees covered 9.8 kilometres and 9.6 kilometres per game respectively. I thought maybe football might have been a bit higher than hurling with the ball travelling so far, but obviously they're very, very close. Now, in fairness, the majority of the total distance involved walking or jogging, so you're not sprinting around that distance. So sprinting, which was classified as running at speeds above 18 kilometres per hour, accounted for around 10% of the total distance. Now, you're talking about fitness becoming overly overly required for being a top level referee.
Well, it's the test itself, Colin. I wouldn't be giving out about it. I know a referee, the one criteria you have to have is be fit, but we do what's called the Bangs Bow test, and it's a yo-yo intermittent recovery test. So it's something similar to the bleep test. So you go over 20 metres and back 20 metres, and then you have a 10-second recovery. So obviously the levels go up as the test continues. So the test it started at level 5 and it could go to 9 for, ordinary enough just to get it going. But when it gets into levels 13 or 14, it goes up at 8 at a time. So you've, for example, 14.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So going back when they introduced this test, the standard was 14.8, which was achievable and it wasn't bad. And then it would have risen to 15, 4 and 6, and we'd have a few lads then, when lads weren't looking, just moving on the cone a little bit, and there'd be lads going before the beep and turning before the cone and stuff like that. So the standards used to be very high because we weren't running it strict. So then a lot of referees start giving out, especially the fit referees that weren't getting games, that lads are moving the cones, they're turning too quick. So it got too serious too quick. And all of a sudden, Colin, it's gone up to level 17.4 in the championship, being run fierce strict.
Right.
So that's a rise of 20 extra runs, which is a lot when you think about it.
That's a lot.
So
and just on that, I've done a lot of bleep tests down through the years, and some of the actual, they count differently, so it's hard to compare every bleep test. But 17.4 on any bleep test I've done, that's in the upper range of any team I've been on. There's only about 2 or 3 lads getting above that if that's the same bleep test, which is a very high level.
It is indeed, and I know it gives you the 10 seconds extra to recover, but it's aimed at maxing you out, but it only lasts for 14 minutes, and this is where I have a huge issue with, that a game could last for 70, 80 minutes, and we're maxing ourselves out to be roughly around 14, 15 minutes of a bleed test, and some levels didn't make the championship panel in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years at getting to 17.1 or 17.2, so really they were 40 metres away from actually refereeing, and they weren't allowed to referee. And you have to have an overall evaluation to be a referee. As I said,
do they not, Brian? The fitness test is the only test, or surely there's theory tests and other.
Yeah, there's a rules test as well. well, column, and you have to get 96% in that, which is, it's 50 questions and you get 2 marks per question. So you're only allowed 3 wrong answers, which is correct, because they're fairly straightforward, and you'd want to see, you have time to do the written test and fill in you're given options, But on the physical test, I think there has to be an overall criteria to be a referee. Obviously, fitness is one column, but your decision making and your confidence in your own ability, and it just can't be put down to fitness. I think it has to be put down to performance, as it says, knowledge of the rules, and why should a lad lose out if he's 40 metres short when he could be one of the best decision makers out there? It just doesn't make sense to me. And we meet every 3 weeks up in DCU and do a training session. Surely in this day and age, when players are training 4 or 5 times a week, that we should have regionalised training sessions, i.e. Athlone, Dublin, Kilkenny, Mallow, Belfast, and surely there's someone in each province to take the referees for a week training. Once a week is not asking a lot from a referee to make sure he's at a training session, and your fitness improves straight away. But going to Dublin every 3 weeks just to do a training session, I know you train on your own, but it's not the same training on your own. It's when you're training with a team, it's great to have lads around and you're pushing on each other.
Yeah.
But you take a referee who's between the age of 32 to 48 out there training his own. It's very, very hard, Colin. It's not simple, and believe you me, it's not simple.
Yeah. So did you fail the fitness test when you finished refereeing?
I would have once or twice. And I always would have given you a second or third chance in which to do to try and get over it.
Oh, so it's not a game changer if you fail it the first time.
No, you have to get it. You can get a chance to get it the second time, but again, the second time then you're only doing it, and it might be only 2 referees, and you might be happier with that. There's not so many people standing looking, because it puts pressure on you. And in the latter years, the last 3 or 4 years, there was 7 or 8 lads from Croke Park standing around watching, and you might have refs in front of 82,000, but here you're in front of 7 or 8 provincial administrators and maybe the games manager in Croke Park, and you're under huge pressure, and it just sometimes gets to you, and it plays mind games with you. And it's after turning a lot of people off refereeing at national level, and it's something Donald Smith, who's the new incoming manager in Croke Park, really has to look at for refereeing to progress.
Right, okay. So, this is the thing I don't really understand about the fitness being such a big deal, especially when 90% of it is walking or jogging. And it doesn't make sense to me to have to be up at 17.4 to referee a game. It just doesn't. So would you still be reffing if that was relaxed a little bit, or would Barry Kelly still be refereeing if that was relaxed a little bit?
Well, I've no doubt I'd be still refereeing anyhow, Colin, that's for certain. People listening in might say, look, you're lazy or you took the easy attitude. I can tell you one thing, there's no one as trained as hard at times as Brian Gavin has, and trained on his own. And I'm sure Johnny Ryan would have been on the championship panel the last couple of years. Even James McGrath would have failed it a couple of times. Barry Kelly some of the times. Alan Kelly, football referees. And then we introduced the 50 age bracket into referees, and we lost a few referees there, like Jimmy White from Donegal was ready to ref in All Ireland, and we introduced a 50-year-old bracket, and that was him gone. So there would be still lads refereeing if it was. And as I said to you, if lads were training once or twice a week, I don't think you'd have to worry about any fitness test or what levels lads were at. I know you need a test here and there, but as a one man said to me in Croke Park, a prominent man, Pat Daly, says, the more tests you do only proves one thing, that you're just wired to the moon. And that's why I agreed with him on that,
And so the 50, you're the same age as me, 41. I find that amazing when hurling's crying out. It's not just because I'm speaking to you, but when hurling's crying out for experienced referees, and you would referee, but you wouldn't be able to get to that 17.4. You wouldn't be able to get to whatever you can get to, but you can get your fitness to a level where you can referee games. I find that it seems like the GAA a little bit are shooting themselves in the foot with these really high standards of fitness.
Well, look, to be honest with you, I describe myself something like Eugene Coughlin and Offaly or Kevin Keenan. I'd be a biggie snuff fella. It'd take me 5 or 6 yards or 7 yards, Colin, to get up and going. And next thing, I'm up and going, I'm turning that 20-metre line. And even to this day, my hips are killing me from the constant turning on the 20-metre line. And I know a lot of other referees are in the same boat. And I think we should have concentrated more on 60, 70-metre runs like game situations. But when I got up and going and got running, Colin, after 10 or 15 yards, I remember in the 2016 All-Ireland, I had an advantage for Cathal Barrett just around before the 45. He cleared it down and Bubbles stuck it in the net. And I'll never forget looking at the replay. I'm not far off Bubbles again, he strikes it. So within 4 or 5 seconds, Colin, or maybe 6, I was gone 40, 50 metres, So I knew when I got up and running I was okay, but I think to punish fellas over 20 metres and turning constantly isn't the way forward. And I just hope it changes for everyone's sake,
So, because, the bleep test is more, it's not necessarily a guide to how you'll be running, because like you say, referees, if when you're running, you're running stretches. You very rarely sprint 20 metres and then turn around and sprint another 20 metres. Leaving less than 20 metres, whatever the bleep test is.
Yeah, well, the biggest example would be someone maybe like Sean Clear, who is I won't say too fit, but he's too close to the action. And when the ball is cleared 60 or 70 yards, he's completely out of position then.
Right.
So really, the refereeing is about position and decision making. And you could be the fittest referee out there, but your positioning could be terrible. And Sean does be too close to the play. It's switched 70 or 80 yards to the far side of the pitch, and here he is gone bananas running again across, where you should be around 15, 20 metres from the play the whole time. If you can't see anything from 15 or 20 metres, well, you shouldn't be refereeing in the first place. So it's about reading the game, and your position is more important than going through the Bangsbo test up to level 18 or 19, that's for certain.
Yeah, the big joke when you're younger is give the referee a pair of glasses. I presume you have eye tests. I presume you have eye tests and stuff.
Actually, we do. In fairness to Copan, and even got the umpires a free eye test one time too. But I don't know many of them availed of them. Have we seen the last few years? But it was certainly made. It was made possible for them. Whether they took it up or not, I don't know. But no, we do have eye tests. Yeah,
no, that'd be a classic if there was no eye test. But come here, I saw as well in the Examiner you were saying that refereeing top level hurling now is different and difficult compared to 5 or 6 years ago. It was more man to man stuff back then, whereas these days there are more rucks. You could have 8 or 10 lads around the ball, and the physical stuff has ramped up. Is that your take on it?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, Colin, have changed. Obviously, the physicality of any hurler of football now with the gym work is ferocious. And now there's no one holding their own position. So, there are 6 backs, it's not on your 6 forwards. It's completely, nearly gone like football. At the half forward line has retreated, and some of the half back lines are following them. And you see now the rucks, there's no one moving a ball on the ground anymore. So there's definitely 8 or 10 people around a ball trying to pick it and rise it. So when that player eventually picks it, is he taking too many steps, number one? Is there someone fouling him, number two? And is he charging, number three? So all of a sudden, hurling has become a difficult game to referee in the last few years with the amount of rucks that we've seen. But the fitness of fellas now, that a lad in hurling compared to maybe 10 or 12 years ago hasn't the time in the ball that he used to have. You get a ball now and there's someone nearly on you straight away.
Yeah.
You hardly have time to blink. So it is gone a little bit more difficult to referee, and I don't think it's as enjoyable as it used to be, Colin. I could safely say that,
Yeah, well, I suppose you not only do you not have time, there's not even one lad tackling you, there's 3 of them, and then you've got the whole, that dilemma for referees. Is he over carrying or is it a free? And referees are human beings, and you've seen it so many times down through the years that if a team is making a comeback, he's over carrying. And if, it depends on the way the flow of the game is going, because often they're toss-ups, Brian, aren't they? Whether a lad is over carrying or whether the 3 lads are actually fouling them.
And that's it. And actually, Dunlug obviously was highlighting it the last 4 years, and I wouldn't see eye to eye with Dunlug, but that doesn't matter. I take his point on board. The spear hand is an issue in hurling, whether we like it or not. Is he tugging a lad when he's in possession? Is he pulling him back? And that's hard to know. I'm actually training intermediate hurlers in Cara this year, and we've done a drill a couple of times this year that I'm trying to get the lads with a man that has the ball, when you're coming to tackle him, that you keep your 2 hands on your hurl, because the easy thing to do now is put out your arm. And obviously, number one, the opposing player could hold it and go to ground, else it could go around your neck, or else you're going to hold him and tug him. So if you can try and keep your 2 hands on the hurl and put the man that has the ball under pressure, as in put him right or left, it obviously is a big help. But the spear arm and the over carrying in hurling is really the big talking point in the last 2 or 3 years, that's for certain.
Yeah, it definitely is. So head-high tackles were the big thing this year. So we had Willie Barrett coming out at the start of the year and saying there's going to be 0 tolerance.
Yeah.
He's gone. Oh, you're still there. Sorry, I'm just going to read out that quote. I thought you were gone there for a second.
No.
He says, absolutely 0. He says, anything above the shoulders in relation to striking the head from the neck up, we've instructed our referees clearly, both in hurling and football, to issue a red card for a challenge that's a deliberate challenge to the head. Now, I saw James Owen's dilemma in the All-Ireland final. James Owens didn't want to send Richie Hogan off. What was going on in James Owen's head at that time? Was he thinking assessors? Was he thinking, Jesus Christ, I'll be lynched by hurling people? You know, Babs Keating came out after the game and says a bit of common sense wouldn't have gone astray. And we all know the common sense thing is just to let it go. It'll ruin the game. And how much was James Owens thinking, I really don't want to send him off. I know he's not that type of player, but I'll never get an All-Ireland final again if the assessors will lynch me.
Well, there's a couple of things in that column. At the start of the year, usually when we come out with something in Croke Park, like as in throwing the ball or what we're going to pull for this year, the head high was won because of concussion. And ever since the helmet has been introduced, I suppose we've never seen as many head high tackles. So they decided this year that they were going to cut it out. And the problem for James Owens, even in the quarter final or semi-final or final or any referee, was it was after being, I'd say 80% of the year implemented, that round the head was a red card. So James Owens would have seen this tackle in the All-Ireland final, and it'd be like me or anyone. That's the last thing you want to do in an All-Ireland final is send off anyone. And he definitely would have talked about. That's why he walked over slowly first to Johnny Murphy to get his version of it, because Johnny was close to it. Then he would have waited for a couple of seconds to see how Cathal Barrett was, and he would have deliberated it again. And in the meantime, he probably would have been hoping another linesman or umpire might come into his ear to give him another benefit of doubt, or if they might have seen it. And that's unfortunately, we probably can't see it on the big screen in Croke Park. But he was given Richie Hogan every chance not to send him off. But obviously the evidence outweighed it after, and he had no choice but to send him off. And I, even at the game at the time, thought Cathal Barrett had made a little bit much of it. But obviously when I see it in that fourth camera angle going back, he really caught him under the chin. And it was a very unfortunate for Richie Hogan. He wasn't trying that, but it happened. And James Owens had no choice. And you see, James would have thinking back to the 2012 final he done column that Colin Fennelly, the hurl round the neck from Johnny Cohen, nearly beheaded Colin Fennelly, and he didn't issue a red card there, and he came in for a bit of slack there. So that would have played in his mind as well. But at the end of it, he had to send off Richie Hogan, as unfortunate as it was for the game and as a spectacle.
Yeah. Are we at a bit of a crossroads with hurling people and referees and them having to accept that some of these things are going to have to be punished? And if you were to come back into the game, I know you were refereeing right up until 2016, and because we're known for letting the game go. I think Henry Shefflin even referenced you with the Richie Hogan thing and says Brian Gavin would have just applied common sense. But that was like, would you struggle now with the reputation you had as a really good referee, a good hurling referee, and now if you had to maybe make that call, you might make it different than you would have 3 years ago?
Yeah, I suppose it's all about getting yourself established on the national panel, and the problem we have then is maybe players in Christy Ring and Joe McDonough are being punished by the referees that are at that level because they're looking at the video clips at the start of the year, and you probably have to go with what the majority of the room go with on the night. That's the way of the referee. I suppose myself in particular and some other referees that like to let it go, I'd like to let it go once the tackle was broke and he had a chance of clearing it. You know, not like there's a lot of people going to matches, Colin, that are paying 20, 30, 40 euro into matches, and it's a lot of expense. And the last thing they want to see is a referee whistle happy. But I never used to let a game go unless I felt I was in control of it, first of all. And I had the comfort then to, we'll say, let it out and then rein it back in a little bit. So that is, to be honest with you, that's a talent that some referees have and some referees haven't got. And that's where it gets bogged down a bit, when you know when to pull back in a game and when to let it out. And that's not an easy trait of a referee. And I suppose everyone wants consistency, but when they're not doing it in the when they're doing it in the Joe McDonough or Christy Ring, and we're not doing it at the national level, that's a problem for the managers at that level and the players at the level as well, and the supporters. So it is a fine one, but if I was to go back refereeing, I don't think I'd be comfortable. I don't think my style would be comfortable in the modern game, what Croke Park want me to do, rather than what I feel as a hurling man would players like, you know.
Yeah, no, that's the unfortunate thing. So how do we help them then? I mentioned at the very start of the show, people are talking about two referees, they're talking about VAR. I'd be against both of them. I don't know what you think of those two suggestions.
I suppose definitely two referees. I don't think I did think about it a lot, you know, especially people talking. I don't think that had worked, Colin. I just think we need to sit down with the referees and get them mentored. Like, I'm not being smart. Barry Kelly's finished, Brian Gavin's finished, Johnny Ryan's finished, Dermot Kerwin's finished. We should be able to go around and help these referees, as in sit down with their match videos and go through it, try and improve their position and try and improve their decision making. You know, just to get a sheet of paper from an assessor to see how you done, number one, where there's no video game or where there's games not televised. But if your game's on telly, you should be able to go through that video yourself. But you should have the confidence to pick up some other referee or some other person to give you that guide to go through it. But I think Croke Park should be doing that for referees. You should be mentored. You should be trained at least once, or if not twice a week. And you should be made more professional, like the players are these days, as in diet, training, nutrition, all that. Now, it does happen, but it's not happening as regular as players. And as I said to you, referees are on the far side of 32, players are on the far side of 26, going down the way. So there's a big difference in fitness of a player and a referee. So if we can start investing a few pounds into regionalise the training, mentor the referees on the positioning and decision making, I think we would improve it. But we have to have an incentive for a club referee to start off refereeing. And I think to attract anyone, it has to be obviously a money issue. We can't be going around giving 30 or 40 euro to a referee to get the abuse he's getting. I don't think that's going to work.
No, definitely not. Two other quick ones before I let you go. What would you think of ex-inter-county players becoming referees and maybe not starting refereeing at the very low club level, but being fast-tracked into it and given training and given courses? Is that possible, or is this something you need to have 10 years experience with, in match situations?
Well, some lads could take to it like duck to water. More lads could be a disaster at refereeing,
Right.
that type of way. It is, but I think to have the knowledge of an ex-player would be fantastic. Or even a player that played at a high club level. Like, I was fortunate enough to play with Clara in both hurling and football. The majority of referees have played at some level, but they've probably never played at a high enough level to know what the difference is between a legitimate foul and accidental. So I think it would be something to chance, but no way is a player going to go into referee, as I said, for 30 or 40 euro, any ex-county player, that's for certain.
No, and there'd be a whole shitstorm then if they got paid more than the referees that were. I don't even want to go down that road. The last one I want to ask you about is that, like, my argument on this and two referees and all this kind of thing, for big games you have three referees. You have the referee and you have two linesmen who are inter-county referees in their own right. Then you have three referees. So this idea of calling for two referees, I think, is silly. Here's the question I want to ask you. Because there's competition between a lot of referees, obviously, because you're all competing to get the big game, is there an element of a linesman not going out of their way to help the referee in a big game because they're rivals?
Well, I suppose, look, there would have been a certain amount of that. Every referee that you'll ask head on will deny it. I don't think you're going to make a wrong decision on the day column, but sometimes you were hoping that the man in the middle might make a mistake or two, that there's another one out of the way, and that is human nature.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Oh, it is.
It's the same as the cornerback going for a county team, and you're hoping your man gets a roasting and you get your chance to go on and you do well. So that is an element, but I think we'll have to change the powers of a linesman, as in, it's not in rule that a linesman is certain of a free. Without a linesman calling the referee too often, that's the last thing you want, is a fussy linesman that's going to annoy the referee. But if you see a blatant foul, like a lad is after picking the ball clean off the ground, you should be able to buzz the referee or tell the referee that's a free, where at the moment we're not allowed. And that's the one thing that shouted in at linesmen at matches. Do your job, linesman. What can the linesman do? Only call a yellow card, call a line ball or call a red card and mark a 65 or a 45. So probably the powers of the linesman have to change. And that's where it gets bogged down with linesmen. Even though the referees, they haven't that much power. They can try and control the sideline. They can do a bit of timekeeping as well. But really, they've no say on frees. It's the referee on the day that calls all the frees. And I think it's no harm if you miss the blatant free for a linesman to tell you, look, that was a free. But the last thing you want, Colin, is a lad doing the line and he annoying you the whole time. I think that was a push in the back, or I think this, or I think that.
Yeah, I didn't think,
so there is a fine line in it. But if you miss a free, the linesman should be able to tell you, look, because it could lead to a score column,
Yeah. So maybe I didn't think of that dynamic. A linesman getting too big for his boots and annoying you, and then he could be in your ear all the time, and you're you have a different style of refereeing. So I suppose the only solution there is to give them more power, but when the referee wants it, maybe. And did you see anything?
He's not sure of something. Yeah, now you're talking.
Did you see anything there? Come here. I won't take up any more of your time, Brian. That was great stuff. It's always nice to hear it from the referee's point of view. And listen, if you ever want to go training, I'll take you under my wing and get you right for next year's championship.
a wedding coming up now on September 27. A good friend of mine, John Rell, so we have to do something for that. But Colin, the last thing I'd like to say is people need to realise the referee is only human. He's from a normal club. He's a normal fella. He's trying to do his best. But there is a few referees out there at club games that are ignorant and arrogant, and you can't be that if you want to survive. You have to be able to give and take a bit of it. And I think the slogan that's on any referee's sleeve is give respect, get respect. And, you know, while players and mentors and everyone need to calm down a little bit too, some referees in club games need to have a bit of manners too, and you'd often see the way they curse back at players and talk to players as well. So it works both ways, Colin, but don't forget the referee is only human and we need him or we have no game.
Yeah, that's true. Brian, thanks very much.
You're welcome, Colin. Thank you.
So Paddy Power performance of the weekend, Johnny. Tony Brosnan is back. He's back from America and he's back amongst the ridiculous tallies next to his name in the team sheet. 111 for Crooks. It just did this all last year, but me and Wolly got so excited about him, thinking he was going to be Kerry's big thing this year. Obviously they didn't need him. They had a good enough forward line in the end.
Well, they might have done with him in the end.
Yeah. But I remember Niall McIntyre in the summer did a good interview of him because he ended up out in McInespy's out in Boston. Is that where that is?
Yeah, Boston, yeah.
And he was, in fairness to him, he was pretty classy about it. He was saying, I suppose, this is actually a bit depressing though as well for club players who are in good club teams. So he said, I suppose getting to the All-Ireland final with Crooks stopped any chance of getting a call-up, because after we lost to Corofin, it was straight back in for April club month, so he was back with the club after he left the club. All the county players went back. Come May, talked to Peter and that, but he kind of had his own plans in place already, so sort of down the pecking order because you're doing well as your club. Now they're trying to change that this year with the GAA. They're bringing the club finals forward, and that definitely will help like people like Tony Brosnan, but geez, like he really can light it up at club level. Yeah,
he's a fantastic player, and you know, I suppose he's fallen between two stools a little bit there, you know, and I still think, you know, his chance will come, and you'd be hopeful that, you know, things go well for him, and you know, obviously we're very much on the outside where he sits into Peter Keith's plans, you know. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but where do you put him in that team? You know, it's but still, you think someone of that's able to, and that's top level football. That's one of the top clubs. So it's not, you know, a really good player playing junior A football down in you know, in Kerry.
Yeah,
you know,
Dr. Crooks.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe marking a guy that's, you know, well into his 30s, and this is top class football. And like 111 is just like, it's phenomenal kicking.
I can only dream of 111.
It's phenomenal. Like no at any level, it's super kicking. So, you know, you'd be hopeful he's one you're going to see more of, because, you know, he's a talent. There's no doubt about it.
What's the most you've ever scored in a game?
I scored 11 points.
Did you?
Yeah, I scored 11 points against Armagh. Armagh in the league, yeah.
Is that why McGeady ended up coming to Kildare?
Now, Ronan Sweeney said there was 10 14-yard frees that he won, but anyway. yeah, there you go.
I won't even tell you what my highest tally was. Con O'Callaghan, so he's playing with cool hurlers. It's hard to keep track of him now, to be honest, but he scored 2-3 for them. I don't know if you saw his first goal. So they're playing Kilmacud, big win for them. Gets the ball out in the right wing, and Slidder, sorry, and he just starts, you know, going straight for goal like he does, but he ends up having a tight enough angle, and there's a big Kilmacud lad who hits him a good challenge. Like it's not a soft shoulder by any means. He comes in with one big left arm, and O'Callaghan just drives through it, and he sort of gets delayed a little bit, but just has enough muscle just to power past him and drills the ball, and just serious core strength in him.
Yeah. Well, look at it. You only have to look at the you know, there's the two pictures.
I know.
And it's the boy and the man. He's after bulking up. He's obviously done a lot of work, and he's watching his diet and all that sort of thing that goes with, you know, these top class intercounty footballers. You know, so but to me the big thing is, and you hear lads talking about, you know, you have to have the hurl in your hand all the time. He just seems to be able to switch from one to the other. Like I'd say, obviously he's tapping around, going down down to the pitch, and he'd bring the hurl and stuff like that. But like, to be able to just go, and again, like Cuala are going to be thereabouts. They're a top team. Just to be able to seamlessly just waltz back in and produce performances like that, it's a huge talent, you know. And what I like about him is, there seems to be no airs and graces about him. He just goes on, and if you seen him like pick the corner back, you'd say, sure, look, if I can do a job for you lads, I'll do it. That he gives off that impression, and I like him for that. There's just and like it'd be easy, after winning 5 in a row, and like he's just back doing what he does, and he looks happy to do it. And I know there's loads of them all over the country, but he's a top class example of it, and again, there's loads of times intercounty footballers get bad press, but this is a guy like that's, you're talking to young lads in clubs, what an inspiration he must be to have around the club. And we talked about Declan Bonner earlier on, and it's great, but here's a different kind of an inspiration. Just the bigger the game or the smaller, it doesn't matter to me. I'll play. I want to play.
Serial winner as well. Like, all those lists of all the All-Irelands that he's won, but like, I think this is the main ingredient of a winner, is that they're never satisfied. Like, you can't keep them, you can't feed them enough. They'll just keep being hungry, and like, even I think he scored his second goal against Kilmacud Crooks there, and you can just see him in the guy's face, like he was sticking his chest out, absolutely loving it. And it's just back in the Dublin Club Hurling Championship. With all the All-Irelands that he's won.
And you always hear the old sort of grabbing the crest, it's pride in the jersey. Well, it's not really. It's the man in the jersey, and Conor Callan has pride in himself, whatever jersey's on his back,
and pride in winning,
and wants to be the best he can be. And the jersey only it doesn't matter whether it's I've seen with UCD putting in top performances. Obviously Dublin, club hurling and football. He just he's a huge asset to the game. He's one of our superstars today.
And one superstar that's still going is Benny Coulter. I make it to the 36-37. So Mayo Bridge won the reserve senior football championship in Down. And Benny Coulter kicked 1-7, and he only needed 40 minutes to do it because his hamstring went after that. But got 1-7 that time. Mayo Bridge ran up a massive scoreline to win out there. But Jesus, great to see Benny Coulter still scoring, isn't it?
Benny's just a player of his generation. He's like, and so many. Like, he's a brilliant goal getter.
Yeah,
that's like, he got so many. I remember looking at a clip of him on YouTube, and just you forget how good he was at finishing goals. He was just phenomenal. I've just about forgiven him for the goal against us in 2010. Not fully, but just about. And I told him that as well. But we were all right. We had a pint after, so
I can see the headlines now.
Yeah,
Johnny Doyle, I have forgiven Benny Coulter.
But no, he's and like, again, just I suppose. I always hate to hear, the club versus county debate, because we're all, they're all club players. Start with your club. If you're lucky enough and maybe have the talent and the application to play at the highest level, it's great, it's brilliant. But then you go back to being a club player, and you're a club player all the way along that journey. I say, like, for me, it was about representing the club, when I played with Kildare, and you can see that in Benny Coulter as well. Like, he's, and he's phenomenal, and that club obviously, like, he was obviously grew up in the Mickey Linden era. So and we look at what Mickey Linden's. I think he's still he's a little bit older than Declan Bonner, and he's still and he's out the field kicking points. So, like, again, you can imagine a young lad in growing up in Mayo Bridge, like, you think, that's the end of an era now. Mickey Linden's gone, and next thing this lad arrives, and like, it's a huge asset to it.
It's powerful,
powerful stuff.
It's powerful stuff. But you're not going to take away from Declan Bonner. He is the performance of the weekend. So congratulations, Declan. I'm sure you'll be thrilled to know you're getting a pair of Paddy Power Lucky Pants in the post. So enjoy them. Thanks very much for joining us, Johnny. Thank you. It's been great, and we'll be back on Thursday. See you then.